this connective tissue that runs throughout the body, this fascial tissue, under stress, that the body produces certain hormones or stress hormones, it tightens in. It just literally pulls us in. So we feel tighter, and we often feel tighter in certain areas. So, you know, people say, oh, my shoulders are so tight. I've now got headaches. Muscles will pull in, muscles will get tight and sit at an unnaturally short length. So if we can come along and get the body to reset these muscles back to more of a natural resting length, then you're going to feel better, you're going to move better, and you're going to live better. So you don't have to have Bowen therapy every single week, but every now and then a little bit of maintenance goes a long way. In fact, sometimes I ask people, when was the last time you had your car serviced? Now people get their car serviced quite regularly. In fact, they have it written on it, the next time it requires a service. And you can ask them the same question. When was the last time you got your body serviced? And they think back, well, I might have gone to a doctor to make sure that things were going along okay. But yes, but just getting your blood pressure taken and maybe checking that you weren't going to die of a heart attack, that's not a bad thing. But what about actually looking at your body and how you're going? You know, Bowen therapy is quite different in a lot of ways. I mean, we actually do work and stimulate nerves. So Bowen therapy is often a different approach. And one of the main differences of Bowen therapy is these waiting times that we put in as part of the treatment. So we'll give the body a stimulus, or 3 or 4 different stimulus, and then step back and allow the body to react to those stimulus. It's quite amazing. It's about allowing the body time to listen to what's happening, what's going on, so that we give it an opportunity. I sort of say to kids sometimes, you ever work with an old computer, if you give it 5 things to do in a row, it'll freeze up, or it'll just stop working, or it'll do the last thing but it won't really complete the first one properly. The body's like that too. If you don't give it an opportunity to react to a stimulus, it'll just override that and go on to the next stimulus that it's got. So Bowen therapy is ingenious in the way that it works with the body and gives it an opportunity to work with that stimulus and begin the healing process. Quite often we'll come back into the room after leaving these little weights and the person will say, oh, I can feel this buzz going on, I got this strange sensation in my foot or my leg, or sometimes we just let that settle. We might give it a couple more minutes and let that settle down, because that's often what takes place. It's interesting, Ozzy has said, that Tom Bowen used to say the healing happens overnight. And so certainly when you walk out of a Bowen therapy session, you might think, well, that feels different already. But it may not be as good as you're going to get, because overnight the body can create change and happen while you're asleep and while you're at rest. So sometimes the next day people maybe feel a little bit uncomfortable perhaps, or even a little bit sorer. But then that next 24 hours they begin to really feel the difference and the change that's created. And the wonderful thing that the body is involved in creating the change, it'll often last longer. It's not, the change isn't being imposed upon the body. It's the body's been giving a stimulus and then helping create that change. I mean, one of the most amazing things is when you see a baby brought in that's been awake for days and days and days, and of course so is the rest of the family, because it hasn't been sleeping well. It may have colic or an upset stomach, and sometimes the doctors will say, well, it's just an upset baby, there's not much really we can do about that. Well, Bowen developed these 5 or 6 tiny little moves that we do over a little baby, and it takes about 30 seconds to do, and you hand the baby back to the parent, and they can hardly believe that that's all that you're going to do, because it's taken actually longer to undress them than do the treatment. But quite often that baby will sleep like a log that night and be much more settled. It may require another treatment in a couple of days' time, but it's quite amazing how often that baby will just settle back and be now a happy baby from an unsettled baby. And how does that happen? Is it just that we're getting the gut to, almost like we said before, to reset, to get that peristalsis moving, happening properly, rather than being in a stressed or a quivering state? It's quite fascinating when you see it happen.